can't believe I'm doing this.
Its effectiveness has been proven by many. Good evening.
I'd like to see what... Good evening, sir. Do you remember me?
If you're here for a reward, you'll be sorely disappointed. But I'll gladly shake the hand of a fellow countryman.
I'm not here for a bounty. I'm a doctor. Dr. Reed from the Pembroke.
A doctor? In Whitechapel? What an opportunity. My name's Bates. Cadogan Bates.
Do you require assistance, Mr. Bates?
Not me, but your skills could help a lot of people round here. That would help my business, because I say a live tenant's a paying tenant.
I'm looking for Dorothy Crane. She's a nurse. What can you tell me about her?
Dorothy Crane, bless her soul. I really should thank her someday.
Has she treated you?
No. When I need a checkup, I'd go to a bloody doctor, not some back alley clinic full of sick foreigners.
Since I took an oath to help people, can I be of assistance?
Well, seen better days, that's for sure. But it was bound to happen with all these refugees about.
Infecting you is probably the last thing on these people's minds. Take this, in any case.
What? You give me this for free? Don't have a clue about this place, do you?
I'm looking for
Dorothy?
It's unusual to see someone so happy around here, especially considering the current situation.
Why should I be sad now? There've always been wars, disease, tragedy. There always will be.
That's an unusual way of seeing things in these trying times.
I don't see why I should shed a tear for another man's woes. I'm healthy, and I intend to stay so.
What is your business, exactly?
I offer fair lodgings for a modest price to the poor and weary of Whitechapel.
I see. And what about those who cannot pay?
Well, deals can be done, if you know what I mean. Money's not the only currency. After all, I'm not immune to a pretty face.
In other words, you take advantage of these poor lost souls.
Begging your pardon, I thought you was a man who could appreciate the complexity of the modern world. Things ain't just black and white, you know.
What help could I possibly be to your business?
That's simple. I already get good money from all those fleeing the war. Can you imagine what they'd be willing to pay if I could offer medical assistance too?
Mr. Bates, do not make me regret saving your life in this quarantine zone.
I understand, Dr. Reed, you're from a good family. Don't want to get your hands dirty. That's fine. I'll be happy to act as your middleman.
I've no interest in money. Perhaps one night I will visit you and take what I require. If that should happen, there will be no need for a middleman.
So it's a no then. That's too bad. The Reed tonic could have really helped people, you know, save lives. Isn't that what you do? I mean, people buy that Swamburer's shit.
Tell me, what's your honest opinion of the increasing violence in London?
People are just beginning to discover what we've always known. This city's rotten to the core. They just took their bloody time to wake up and notice it.
What do you mean?
People are acting like the violence is news. But it's always been savage down here. It just bubbles to the surface every now and again.
You seem to have recovered well since your attack. Do you ever think about what happened to you?
Not much. It was a fucking nightmare. Savages, absolute bloody savages. Their appearance, Jesus, it made me want to puke.
You'd better not come back here. I won't be around next time to save you. I want to know everything about the recent violence, Cadogan. And I want the truth.
Well, rent may be a bit high, and yeah, I've had to evict a few people. But that's business, isn't it?
I don't believe even you deserve such a cruel fate, though you have tested my patience beyond its limit.
Glad to hear. Nice to know there's another civilized individual in these parts. Not like those bloody savages.
Goodbye, Mr. Bates.
Seems to get uglier every year. Seems to get uglier every year.
Good evening.
Goodbye.
When science fails you, this elixir will give you faith again. Good evening.
I'd like to see what kind of
All the good boys join the army and the scum turn criminals. If I could get some working, everything would be better.
When science fails you, this elixir will give you faith again. Its effectiveness has been proven by many. Even the flu is no match for the Swanborough cordial. The Swanborough cordial can be the answer to all your problems. As long as you have the money.
If I could get some working, everything would be better. All the good boys join the army and the scum turn criminals. It's a shame, really. Gangs are ruined.
When science fails
You look and smell worse than the shit in the gutter, old man.
It's all a bloody joke to you, isn't it? Stealing drugs from the sick and suffering.
Me? I'll not die in some piss-stinking alley reeking worse than a week-old lavvy.
You have a black, bloody heart, boy.
Keep on digging through the rubbish, that's all you're good for.
Someday you'll understand. You've wasted your life away.
How are...
I'm not your boy, all right?
Goodbye.
There it is. Harmonil for severe anxiety and nervous disposition. Thanks for nothing, old fart. I'll get a good price for your precious pills.
How are you, boy? It is clear that you have a somewhat contentious relationship with your father.
Oh, really? Nothing clever to say?
He's an alcoholic. That must make life difficult.
Oh, no, it's perfectly fine. No money, no home, no friends to lend a hand. My father should have died in France.
War can change you. I have seen many men who have lost their wits on the battlefield.
I'm not going to lose any more time with that drunken arse. Me? I prefer to take my chances with the wet boot boys.
Why do you want to join a gang, Albert?
I'm not going to spend the rest of my life sleeping under bridges.
I understand that living in poverty may be a doorway to a life of crime, but you are still young enough to turn back.
I'm not a child anymore. I'm old enough to do what needs to be done.
Surely there is more to you than this. Why not choose a different path? Earn respect through righteous deeds. You will feel better for it.
Don't make me laugh. You don't know shit about me. You never lived in the streets, so keep your fucking advice to yourself.
Why did you try to steal your father's medication?
Why shouldn't I? What has he ever done to earn my respect?
Your father seems to hold quite a grudge against you.
Man's a walking gym ball. I ain't seen him sober since he got back from the war. But the gun, now that is a surprise.
Admit it. You stole the drugs to prove yourself to the gang.
Of course I did. The wet boot boys got it sorted. Territory, respect, money. They'll take me in now.
Really? Are you sure about that? I don't see them.
I was supposed to meet one of their boys to prove I'm not a loser. Maybe something happened.
Goodbye, young man.
Its effectiveness has been proven
Good evening,
by
Benjamin.
many.
I'm afraid not.
Did you know of your son's plans to join the Wet Boot Boys gang?
Barely survived the war, just to come back and see my wife die of the flu, and my son turn into a petty thug.
Protect your son, Benjamin. Don't you see? Whatever your quarrels, his salvation could be yours.
According to him, everything's my fault. We've nothing left to say or to save.
Your suspicions concerning Albert were legitimate, but were you sure he was guilty when you shot him? Tell me the truth, Benjamin.
No, I wasn't. I just went mad without realizing what I was doing. My God. I almost shot him.
You had better speak to Albert. You need to clear the air. He has to understand what you endured, and you must listen to him talk about his pain.
I'm afraid it's too late. I pointed a gun at him for the sake of a few pills.
A gun, alcohol, and a bad temper make a terrible cocktail, sir. Goodbye for now.
Good evening.
I'd like to see...
Good evening.
Goodbye.
Be the answer to all your problems.
Gangs of ruins.
As long as you have the money.
I'm cheap and I'm...
Watch it! It's a killer!
stupid beast! Get a taste of this! Christ! He's dead! Look lively!
This man, young his crucifix. This is not good news. I have this thirst for blood.
Good evening, Doctor. Can I help you?
Was it?
Maybe
I apologize.
She is very sad.
What was it?
A scarf.
Why are you so...
That we could make...
Goodbye, Mr. Darby. Good evening.
Shane.
Goodbye.
Pay me a glass and I'll reject. Pay me a bottle and
Good evening.
Chris, of course, do you...
I believe...
Tell
Christine,
how
during the next...
if you...
I can't...
Do you...
As long as...
Was it?
Maybe it...
I apologize.
She is very...
What was it? Why are you so...
That we could make...
Goodbye, Mr.
pay me a glass and I'll reject.
Forgive my interruption.
Do not apologize, my son. Father Tobias Whitaker is always happy to teach mortals about the incoming Armageddon.
I am Dr. Jonathan Reed, and I just have a few questions.
A scientist? You are much more lost than I thought, my son.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
I don't like the liberal ideas of nurses, but I especially abhor that Nurse Crane you mentioned.
So, you're not exactly a fan of Florence Nightingale's work. But nurses are essential for modern healthcare.
Nuns should be the only women allowed to take care of male patients. It's obvious only they have the necessary moral fiber.
Do you know Nurse...
I don't like...
Why do you hate Nurse Crane more than other nurses?
Before coming to London, she was a member of the communist resistance in our country. That's what happens when you let a woman get involved in politics.
What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes and consequences. And most of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what do I know? Blinded by science as I am.
But you are seeking answers, aren't you? Answers about the Armageddon about to strike the city. Answers about the hidden truth.
Well, I suppose I can spare a few minutes listening to your so-called truth.
As a doctor, you must be aware of the decimating epidemic. But let me tell you that this so-called Spanish flu is just the beginning of the end.
What do you mean?
The beast is finally revealing itself, corrupting the flesh and the heart of men. With my own eyes I have seen them, those minions from the abyss.
Really? And what would be your answer to this biblical threat?
We must fight the disease before this legion outnumbers us. But not with scalpels and microscopes. No.
What is left then?
Cleansing fire.
Tell me, Tobias, what exactly is your plan concerning the cleansing of this city?
God will recognize his own. More than once this city has risen from the ashes, hardened and purified by the flames.
Fire is just the instinctive answer of a caveman facing something he does not understand. This is the 20th century.
Your lack of faith is predictable. But my task is to convince rational minds like yours to see the light. This is God's will.
You're mad and dangerous. You're nothing but a soulless butcher. A small-time Torquemada. The Savonarola of Whitechapel.
My son, if you think salvation is a free gift, go listen to the lies of that pompous fool, Joseph.
Joseph, a fool?
Vicar Larrabee of St. Mary's Church. While he continues preaching his fraudulent redemption, more and more people die in the streets.
Have you any friends? Any family left in these terrible times?
No. But I have a disciple I see as my son. He is so devoted. I sent him to preach the good word in the heart of this corrupted city.
Where did you send him?
I sent Samuel to the Stonebridge Cemetery, where the pestilence and evil grows night after night.
You sent him on some preaching crusade during the epidemic.
As a true believer, Samuel will fear no evil while he walks through the valley of the shadow of death.
What do you...
All's
quite a...
But you...
I am... What do you...
All's
quite a...
But you...
Well,
As a
what do you...
be...
I have heard an...
Soon the time will come when you will all be judged for your sins. Even now, he judges your words and actions. The wars of men should not be your main concern. The disease upon us is not an accident of nature, but the punishment of a divine will.
with its own beauty and grace. Already touched by grace.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I would like to ask you a few questions.
Please be my guest. Although I may not be the best informant regarding this part of town, my words speak about that which the eyes cannot see.
Really? Are you an artist of some kind?
I'm a poet, sir. Richard Nethercott, at your service.
May I ask what you're doing at this hour of night, sir? Do you live here?
Not at all. I'm just enjoying the pleasure of a quiet walk. Though night talks are always preferable, if you ask me. Especially with strangers.
But are you not afraid of the epidemic?
Oh, why should I? I see some equity in the Spanish flu. No flesh should be saved, say the scriptures. Good or evil, rich or poor, all are equal in the eyes of the flu.
If you say so. But as a physician in a time of epidemic, I must caution you to avoid unnecessary exposure, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. But we both know the seeker of truth has to go boldly where the weak dare not.
Are you aware that your life could be in danger in this part of town?
But this is where I must be to feel the real beat of the city. I had to come, see it for myself, alone.
I understand your need for solitude, but it's not safe around here.
I don't care. I don't have many friends, Doctor, and my family despises me.
If some misfortune came upon you, who would be here to help you?
Well, you for a start, my dear Doctor.
What are your thoughts on the terrible situation in this city?
Terrible, you say? No. Of course, the death of so many innocents is a tragedy. But the scourge has not been all bad for the city. Oh, no, sir.
What are you talking about?
Do you remember London before the flu? Noisy, cacophonic, quiet nowhere to be found. And now, listen to this oddly peaceful silence.
Yes. The enjoyable silence of the grave. You have a unique perspective on the situation, I must admit.
Most people fail to understand my perspective. I don't blame them. But how could I call myself a poet if I veiled my feelings?
Tell me, Mr. Nethercott, why seek inspiration in Whitechapel?
The place is not beautiful per se, but how to explain it? Stirring and challenging.
Do you not think it a little morbid?
On the contrary, sir. Whitechapel is full of life, full of beauty. Just like my dear muse, the wonderful Camellia.
What can you tell me about Camellia?
Not much. And that's the beauty of it. She can't speak, you know. She's a locked mystery who exhales kindness and sweetness.
Perhaps you're just afraid to find out the truth about your muse.
One day, perhaps, I'll ask her to come with me. But will she still be my wild flower of Whitechapel if she moves uptown?
And have you ever tried to learn more about her? Where she lives? How she survives? Whom she may know?
Maybe I prefer she remains an enigma. Reality can be so dull, don't you think?
In what way, exactly?
The struggle by gaslight, the barren smiles and the arid hunger under the rain.
If you say so.
Such vibrant antagonism and vivid paradox, the stripped humanity raged across each street.
Vivid, of course, yes. And what about the poignant distress?
Oh yes, the poignant distress. You see what I mean, don't you? That's what I want to write about, and that's what Whitechapel is made of.
I'll leave you alone, sir. Good evening, Mr. Nithicott.
And good evening to you too, my goods.
You don't really make a living from your scribblings, do you, Richard?
No, sir, I don't. I work so hard. I put all my time, my energy, my devotion into the precise carving of words.
Still, you don't seem to suffer from poverty.
With thanks to my parents, actually. I'm afraid I would not be able to live on my own without their help.
You seem embarrassed.
Someday I hope to proudly offer my first publication to my parents. Until that day, I'll remain the failure of a son they have to support.
I'll leave you alone, sir. Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I know what you're thinking. A tall stranger who meets a girl in the street at night. It reeks of the penny dreadfuls. But I mean you no harm, truly. I know you understand what I'm saying. Your silence has nothing to do with you being mute, does it? Tell me about Richard Nithicott. I understand he is quite fond of you, Camellia. Very well. Goodbye, then. Hello again, miss. Camellia, I know you work for Dorothy Crane. Please tell me about her secret dispensary. A stubborn and mute comrade. Nurse Crane and Darius Petrescu have been clever. Very well. Goodbye, then.
Good evening, Doctor.
Goodbye, Mr. Darby.